Welcome to another episode of LeadForward series, where we get to feature transformational leaders looking into business, how the future will pan out. Today, we are privileged to be featuring Karabo Nondumo, a trailblazer in the entrepreneurship space, a business leader who is operating in various sectors such as mining, telecommunications, and financial services. Karabo is a mom of two incredible boys, Ungo and Abu. She's an accountant, chartered accountant by training. And today we'll be delving into her journey, looking into her leadership role, looking into her resilience and how she got to be where she is today. So welcome, Karabo. So really, as I said, this is just really a platform where we get to relax and really talk about your journey. You're an incredible business leader. You have done incredible things over your career. So maybe, as I've indicated, before we can really get into the depth of our interview, is just do a bit of reflection, looking back into your career. And I've spoken about the fact that you've played in various sectors. Telecommunications, big. Financial services, big. Mining, really big, particularly in the context that we are in Africa. I just would like to know, what was that pivotal moment that would have really made it into who you are today? Yeah.
I think to know who I am, probably if we backtrack a little bit about my background. You know, I'm a village girl. I was raised in a village, and I think that contributed to grounding. You looked at life at a very real level.
Yeah.
Right. And my schooling took me from public education into the private education. So I had to do a big leap into, to get into that space. So that is subconscious resilience building. So by the time you go to university, you are more prepared for the university life, but you don't quite understand how you got there because you take your life, as a flow. So when I got into the workplace, a lot of the resilience that's needed to survive corporate South Africa as a young black person was already ingrained because of where I come from and how I was raised. And I'm saying it because sometimes we think we have it so hard, and we don't understand what that does for resilience and building one's strength.
I can actually relate to that,
Yeah.
because also I come from a village myself.
Yes.
And I say to people, you could have turned out anyhow.
Yeah.
You look at the people that you went to school with,
Yeah.
At that age, at primary school,
Yeah.
and they've turned out differently. And somehow you are where you are.
Yeah. And the support system that you have growing up. My mom was very strong. It was a very strong presence in my life, and she knew before I did that I'm better than my circumstances. So I never saw myself as a victim, in any setting. So you talk about pivotal moment. I went into the corporate world, and I felt uncomfortable. I felt uneasy. It wasn't me. It's not bringing out the best in myself. And what's going to happen is I'm going to ruin my own reputation and my worth by being in an uncomfortable environment, and I'm not going to show up. And I'm going to also fail at, fail the corporate, fail myself. So, I think it's important that one knows who they are, or at least try to, and find spaces that bring out the best in you. It's not easy. Entrepreneurship is not a sexy alternative.
Absolutely. Very lonely.
It's very lonely. It's very hard. It's very challenging. But if it brings you joy, if your inner self is fed, I think, we try to be guided by that. But also, having said that, I think we are all, we must trust our paths. There's this space for a corporate culture, being taught how to manage yourself, your business, so it's not for me it's not either or. It's upon reflection what resonates most with your soul.
Sure.
And the bonuses are nice at corporate. Which you did not get in the entrepreneurship space.
Absolutely. I can relate to a number of things, as you said. Being an entrepreneur in my past life, I think a number of things that did keep me awake is exactly, the cash flow issue.
Yeah.
And you talk about maybe the difference of getting into corporate. There is a level of maybe that stability, but the pros and cons.
Yeah.
I mean, on both in any case. So, so I just want to shift the landscape a little bit and talk about leadership here.
Yeah.
And if you look back, you've built teams, whether it's within your own business, you hold a couple of seats as a chairman in various areas. You've started investment companies and put up basically teams together.
Yeah.
What is that leadership philosophy that really resonates with you? So what core values do you instill in shaping teams, in leading, and putting people together to achieve a certain goal?
I think that the concept of stronger together, the lead as you rise, you are a student yourself. I mean, with the teams that I've built over the years, it's different people from different spaces. We are not all accountants. Even if we are accountants, we it's a broad space. You've got financiers, you've got bankers, you've got investors, you've got mainstream financial managers. So it's just to understand what the end goal is. What are we trying to achieve? I've been fortunate enough to have presence, especially of women who are extremely professional. So we can talk about babies and then we can go into the boardroom and talk about business. The two can coexist. So it's about being human, bringing yourself into the room, so that you can be part of a greater whole. So it's also realizing that you don't know everything.
Sure.
Everybody brings something to the table. Even someone who is much younger or much less of a standing in your corporate environment brings something. So it's about respect, it's about humility. I don't know whether it's because I'm an African child, so that always guides.
Yeah.
But I find that it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And we have to agree that the chemistry is not there, the relationship is not working. But it's a long life. We'll meet each other someday.
Sure.
I know of examples where juniors ultimately hire their seniors who, later in life.
Yeah.
So let's remember that it's a long journey.
100%.
We're here to learn. We're here to make the best of ourselves, of our environments, and we treat each other with respect.
Sure. I can take humility as a key ingredient from what you're saying. And as well, even, the concept of stronger together, it really, really is a key value. In fact, one of our values at BDO, the React model, we talk about stronger together because we understand, in solving problems, you can't solve problems on your own. You've got to bring a community of people, and in our context, you've got to bring a community of other advisors to be in a position to solve complex problems for our clients. Absolutely. So just maybe shifting to, getting to where you are, it's not all smooth sailing. And often, people don't really tell the tales of some of the challenges that they've encountered along the way. I just want to understand maybe just that one key challenge that you did encounter in your career and how you dealt with it, because it's important to send that message that it's not going to be a bed of roses. Challenges are part of life, but they do grow you.
Yeah, it's a lot of challenges.
Sure.
Sure. When I left corporate and I had a very good idea of what I'm going to do as an entrepreneur. I mean, I'm well networked. I know people. I lined up all these relationships, and I was bold in my pursuit, right? But having said that, I've always been conscious of the fact that I like a comfortable life. I didn't want to do the rags to riches journey. Then I got onto boards of listed companies. It started with AltX, and at some point then went into the JSE. But I needed a source of income, and I knew that I'm more than, I'm a multifaceted person. So I like to survive or exist in different environments. But because of that, I thought, my business will thrive because I know people.
Sure.
And I know things, right? and I'm in rooms where I hear things.
Yeah.
It was all a beautiful round structure. And you get out and you realize it doesn't work like that. And also I thought, I'm a black woman in South Africa. I mean, really,
Yeah.
it's, opportunities are open for us. But I had to realize that no, it doesn't work. It's not a magic wand.
100%.
You still have to do the hard work, the slog. And actually, the CEO that you thought you knew is not the decision maker. The guy at the plant who is a procurement manager, or he's a engineering section manager at a mine, for example. Those are the people that you need to have relationships with. So best you go to, a mining area, put on your hard hat and your steel boots, and get to know people at that level.
Right.
So it's a humbling experience, right? Because you think, we live in Sandton, we can, go have coffee and things will happen. So it teaches you now another aspect of life, that it's work. Work is, work of, building stuff and being at the ground. So that was one of the main lessons in my entrepreneurship journey. And I learned to be humble even more, right? Because the relationships you have may not be the right ones, may not be adequate. And some opportunities are just not for you.
Sure.
You want it so badly, you think you've got everything that it takes, but they're just not for you. Sure. And it's hard, but later in life when you see the reasons why they were not for you, you're kind of glad you didn't get it.
Yeah.
But between then and now, it's painful.
Yeah.
And sometimes opportunities, you can pause on some initiatives. You don't have to cancel it altogether, but pause. Go back, think of what needs to be done, what went wrong, regroup, give it time, do the groundwork. And when it does come, it's going to come in droves because you gave it time to grow.
Sure.
And I also learned that business has its own life cycle.
Yeah.
It is not going to go with your budget because you thought you've got a budget for a year. You saved up.
Yeah.
It will go.
Yeah.
It will go longer than your own expectations. And you're also expensive for your business.
And you know what, Karabo, I just want to go back. You talk about ecosystems and probably value chains.
Yeah.
And that's the bit maybe that's not very well emphasized, particularly for people that are starting in the journey of entrepreneurship or even getting in their career. That in business, there's ecosystems.
Yeah.
And just knowing one aspect of a business doesn't give you the right to say the business in full.
Yes. Or what you know is better than, or it's the best to know in that ecosystem.
100%.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you've got to give yourself the chance to really get to know each and every single aspect in that value chain or in that ecosystem or people within that particular ecosystem.
And also appreciate that you need that ecosystem.
Sure.
Right. I mean, and that's on the entrepreneurship space. And then, when I was pretty young when I started being in boards of listed companies, and I was in my 30s, and someone says, why, how? And I said, I just have chutzpah. There's a thing called chutzpah. I was just a sassy girl. I knew I was smart. I knew I have a lot to bring to the table. What I don't know, I'll learn. Who I don't know, I'll get to know, kind of thing. So it was that attitude that said, I want to contribute and I want to be in these rooms. But then you're faced with ageism. Yeah. And people say, what are you doing here? You're young. Shouldn't you be in some corporate somewhere? Because it took them that long to get there. Sure. You're faced with racism, sexism. How do you operate in a room full of white males who, when you ask a question, all eyes are on you, and so it's those resilience that you learned over the years that you have to bring back. into the room, and you have to constantly remind yourself that you belong here.
Sure.
Because we, as women, we struggle with this imposter syndrome, constantly wondering whether I'm crazy, what was I thinking, were those voices really, were they right? Maybe I shouldn't be here. So it's, a lot of pivotal moments.
Yeah. And it actually gives me an opportunity, because I know even, throughout your career, you've been an advocate of diversity and inclusion, looking at some of the things that you've done in the past. Are there any strategies that you can share maybe for corporates, enterprises, and even small business in terms of how they can, elevate diversity and inclusion within their environments?
For me, and I don't understand why it's a difficult concept to grasp, that there is value in diversity of age, of race, of differences, of different professions, of different points of departure, backgrounds, and I've been in environments where that is so rich and it's rewarding. You see the value of, when we're talking about a product that we want to put out in the market, and I'm from that environment, or it's talking to me how I can add value into the development of that product. So as a concept, I always never understood why it's difficult to grasp, right? And as a woman, I know what I'm capable of, and if I had let the system decide for me what I should be, then, I was never going to be, realize the best of myself. So it's something that's driven by those core principles. And I've got boy children, like you said. I need them to realize the best of themselves, but also realize the world that they live in, their responsibility towards others, to build, to support. I'm preparing them for your goals, guys. As much as they bake, they must be able to survive in a corporate environment. So, that's the belief. And I also, from a woman empowerment point of view, like I said, I have worked with incredible women who, were not driven by jealousy. It was never what we think is a typical female behavior. It was professionalism. It was, we win as a team and we celebrate our wins, and we cry, we support each other, we, professionally and personally. And I was quite taken by that, and I continue to thrive in environments like that. I operate in the African continent, and I go to African countries, or rather other African countries, and I see the beauty of us and our different backgrounds, and what we bring to the table, and how we respect where we each come from. We as South Africans, we are probably a little bit more advanced in terms of financial services, or in terms of listed environments. That's what you're bringing.
Sure.
But your colleague is bringing the richness of their culture, of knowing their people, of knowing how the country operates, of knowing the regulatory environment, and imagine if those two work together, what magic comes out of that. So it's always been about what we can do together, and how we bring each other into the room, the inclusion part. How do we make sure that, that girl is seen, that guy is seen, that minority is seen, so what you're doing for BDO, that's amazing, because that girl sees you, as a leader in this environment, and knows that within you they have a sister, as much as they have a boss.
Sure.
You want your report at the end of the day. It doesn't mean we slack on what we need to do. So that's basically.
So I think my take on this, of which I completely agree, is the fact that we're saying we sell products to people. We sell services to people. And those products and services that we sell to people, they're very diverse, and they speak to different audiences. So within any corporate, it only makes sense to have a diverse and an inclusive team that is in a position to relate to the market.
And the voice.
Absolutely.
right? Because you can have a team, but if it doesn't have the voice to add to the development of the product or service, are you really making the most of your diverse culture?
Yeah, amazing. And I love the concept, by the way, we talk about globalization. Now you talking about Africanization, and that I think as Africans, we've got to really then be proud and probably come together to then say, how do we make Africa great? In our different cultures, different jurisdictions that we're sitting in, but come together to then say, how do we make this continent thrive and lift it to a global sort of, maybe the rest of the competitors that we've got, be it Asia, be it the Northern Hemisphere and the likes. But okay. Absolutely great. I just want to bring it back. Karabo, you spoke about it now to say, coming from a rural village, there's another girl who's really still charting their journey. And before we got on set, we were speaking, there also is another boy who could also be coming from a village, charting their own journey. And they've got aspirations. You spoke about chutzpah. They've got the same sort of maybe chutzpah in them, and they want to make it. And looking at your journey, there's lots that that you can share in terms of what are those things that they just got to maybe take in getting there. It takes a while. I took it, hard work. It's important. Network, but network not only at the top. Make sure that you're networked well within an ecosystem. But I just want to, what is that one thing that you would like to at least give to that young person to reflect on and say, yes, I definitely do want to climb that ladder. Yeah.
I think we have been socialized to think we go to school and everything else, follows. Just stick to your books and keep studying and everything follows. And it doesn't. There's so much to the ecosystem than just your brain or your professional capacity. I'd like us to start thinking broader about how we make sure that young people understand that it's bigger than that. You are your own brand. Let's start there. So you gotta market yourself. You gotta sell yourself. You gotta administer yourself. You gotta, provide the service that you are. And what does that mean? It means, I must, get out there and meet people and take care of, advantage of opportunities. There are now, in the age of social media and the internet, lots of initiatives that are designed to help young people take advantage of that. That you live in Mamelodi and you have to get to Sandton, it's not an excuse to say, it's too far. Or, sell sweets, get that 10 rand and get into a taxi. And, you gotta do it yourself. You have to understand that if you don't do it, the system won't do it for you. And I think we were failed by being told that the system will do it for you. And maybe it did for some, and it's great. But for the rest of us, we've had to learn the hard way. You gotta market yourself. So let people know about you. You're out there. There's lots of you. What makes you special? Right. What makes you stand out? Right. I mean, we've heard of amazing stories of that village boy or girl who ends up, in NASA. Why? Because they believed they could, against all odds. They didn't have the means at home. They probably lived with granny who, struggled to take care of the family, but they persevered. And they needed, they used the means around them to get ahead. So let's not be afraid to let our light shine. But our light needs work.
Our light needs work.
It needs work.
And as they would say, maybe in the African language, Vuko Senzeli. Is that the right one?
Like the Thuto song, Sankomota.
Yes, hauna khomuya boroko, hamona. Yes.
I promise you.
Yeah.
And it's the laws of life. And those that win are those that just had the courage, resilience, chutzpah, burning, the burning fire in your tummy. it needs to come out, and that's the light that just needs to come out. But what does it take? It takes you doing the less than ordinary, or the more than ordinary, or the unordinary, whichever way, but it's not going to be run of the mill. You wake up, you hope for the best.
Yeah.
And especially in an era now where we've got high unemployment rate in South Africa, we need to be creative.
Yeah.
We need to collectively try and help.
Sure.
But also as the youth, you need to also try and help yourself. And we all don't have the opportunity to go to school. We are not all going to be CAs, but we can be camera crew. We can we're interested in flowers. We can do flower arrangement. We can do makeup. We can do, you know what I mean? It's about, knowing that you're not your circumstances.
100.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. I want to pivot a little, get to business. We spoke about the sectors that you operate in, telecommunications and financial services, and I just want to pick on those two. And my observations, there's a level of convergence that's happening between those two industries. The question is, what are the trends that you see, and perhaps what are those future trends that you think will play into those two sectors, and particularly looking at the convergence that is taking place?
Yeah, I think technology and the rise of handsets, of internet connectivity has created a lot of opportunities. And I think corporates have also realized that what they have are actually platforms, right? So you can have the infrastructure of telecoms, fiber, base stations, and everything. And what do we put on top of that to maximize that investment, right? Because it's a lot of money, but at some point, everybody has a cell phone. Who else are you going to connect onto the network? So it becomes about what services you can put onto the network. And then you have an African society that is not well banked, well insured. People don't have those sophisticated financial services products, but they have a phone, and they can transact on their phones. They can send money. We come from a society where we have to help or even trade amongst ourselves. So I can send you money without going to the bank. I can buy an insurance product. I can buy a funeral cover. I've got an amazing story. So I sit on the board of MTN Uganda. And my first year, there was an annual general meeting. And what we know in South Africa, because it's listed on the Uganda Stock Exchange, is that it's a run-of-the-mill kind of small grouping, right? It's you and the probably analysts and asset managers who come to the meeting, a few shareholders, and you read the script and you answer some questions. But at that meeting, there were more than 4,000 people.
Wow.
Yes, who were shareholders in that business. And they came to this annual general meeting.
Wow.
And they needed, most of them were villagers. They were coming from up country because they bought shares on their phones.
Wow.
They're shareholders of MTN. So the phone
Wow.
that they use, they are shareholders of that business. And they wanted to know how their shares are doing. You have to explain in very simple local language. But the biggest thing is that a lot of them, for the first time, they could save. It's a saving mechanism for their children. So they don't have to put money under the mattress anymore. Them investing in a share means, one day their child will sell the share or, use the dividends for school or for whatever they need. And for some people, they live in very remote and rural areas, and owning a cell phone made it possible for them to call an ambulance, to come to that rural area, to get services that they wouldn't otherwise be able to because they live far. They have the cell phone shop there where they can, get services. So that's the power of technology.
I love that amazing story with Uganda, as you're saying, and I can picture my own grandmother sitting in a village place somewhere actually having access in buying a share in a listed company, but not only listed in Uganda, listed on the JSE, I guess with a group. And that is just amazing, having access to an asset that naturally, as you say, would have never been possible without the advent of a cell phone, and even the type of asset and within financial services. It's
and also using financial services products on the back of that. So now I can buy funeral insurance. So somebody, if something happens to me, there's money. Because typically in African cultures, if there's no funeral cover, we all scramble to bury our loved one. So now they can have that cover. They can have, banking services on that cover. They can pay for electricity where, I don't have to go queue anymore. So, you talk about the convergence of financial services and telecoms. It's really catapulted, the means access, right? And now bringing it back to the corporate environment, we can meet remotely now. We can, restructure our lives so that we are always in touch. I know the next thing is, when do people rest, because you're always on, but it's facilitated things like that. It's taken, I don't know how long you used to queue at the bank. Just to withdraw or just to put money in. Remember, you used to fill in papers and queue and wait. And now, mobile technology and this platform play has allowed you now to...
You can do it on an application and actually have choices. As you're saying, I can then say, jeepers, which one of the funeral covers do I choose? I don't have to really deal with where there is one guy who's coming to sell me what they are selling.
Absolutely.
Is that liberalization where you really have the opportunity to see the varied products.
And I can buy groceries online. I can call for a taxi online. It's changed how we live.
Sure. The platform world that we live in, and I think it's still going to unfold. Like all good things, everything does come to an end.
And such a nice conversation. Shouldn't come to an end.
We're just about to wrap up, but before we wrap up, and you touched on it just now, just how do we really play this balance? And just looking at you, you're a mom of incredible 2 boys. You've got an incredible career, and you also have a life. You've got friends, family, and everything else. So how do you do the balance in terms of your own professional sort of commitments versus your personal commitments and personal development versus your well-being? How do you balance the three?
I think it depends on where one is in life, I guess. I think I speak from a position of privilege now because I'm older. I'm not building a career and having kids at the same time. Career is more mature and can handle the flexibility of raising a child. So it's a bit unfair if we're talking to younger girls. But I think it's about realizing that you don't have to do it alone. You accept the help. You teach those around you how to treat you, how to, recognize that you also have to have time for yourself. I think as moms, we get very guilty if we are not, attending to everybody else. We need, it's a learned thing to attend to ourselves. So it's being intentional, I think, and a little bit selfish, and being okay with being selfish. I can't attend the game today, but I will definitely do it tomorrow. Sometimes I cannot do the meeting today because I'm run down. Is it okay? It's okay to take time for yourself. For your family to know that, I can't go to every family event. Today, I just want to sleep. It's love you guys, love you to bits, but right now I don't have capacity. I'm all spent, you know. And I always say that, especially for career or corporate or accomplished women, guys, you have the money. Let's face it. Let's put it out there.
Right.
You get paid. You work very hard.
Right.
You have the money.
Right.
To do things for yourself. And now there are mobile services. The nail lady will come to your house. The hair lady will come to your house. No need to not be put together.
Sure.
Right? The massage people. By the way, massage is therapeutic. It's not a cosmetic thing. It's something you need. You know, exercise, whatever it is that feeds your soul, that gets you revived for the next day, that gets you be present for everybody else, that makes you feel good about yourself, is there. This thing of, you know, we're still operating in that lack mindset, right? So we have to give everybody else whatever it is that we have, and we don't have anything left for ourselves. And we also need to be intentional about, you know, telling those people around us, you know, I think your husband needs to know who you are, because for all he knows, you are just everything, right? Your kids need to know who you are, your friends, your family, and you come first. If there's no you, there's no this,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
And we do die from stress. Stress is a killer, you know. And I don't know whether they will bring you back from the dead because they're sorry they didn't stress you. They were stressing you out, right? So it's about that, I think.
Sure. So teaching people how they should relate to you.
By recognizing who you are first and what you mean.
I love it.
You can only share what you are, right?
100%.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier on about showing up for yourself.
Yeah.
And showing up for yourself, you can then show up for everybody else.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. Thank you, Karabo, for joining us. It has been an insightful session. Not for me, and I hope for my audience, it has been incredible. And you've learned and gotten some insights, particularly into leadership, business, and resilience. Until the very next episode of Lead Forward. Thank you.